shut tight. He had kicked off his other shoe now. His pressed chinos had ridden up on his legs, exposing grey cashmere socks and hairless shins. While the chief knelt by Hal, trying to comfort him, Victoria hurried out to the bronco and got a blanket. "It's all I can think to do," she said to Casey, who nodded. Together they put the blanket on Hal and adjusted the cushion under his head. "Does this seem like a heart attack to you?" Victoria asked as they attempted to soothe Hal, who was beyond soothing. "I know he's had heart problems in the past." "I don't know." Casey seemed puzzled. "How old is he?" "Not that old," Victoria said. 84 or 5. The chief shook her head and muttered, "I can't believe this island's definition of old." Hal had volunteered to clean up after the brunch. Opening the closet next to the restrooms, Victoria brought out a broom and dustpan. "Leave that for now," Casey said. "Better not clean up yet." A siren whooped to a stop outside. Victoria heard the iron latch clang and the gates slam open against the picket fence. Footsteps hurried up the brick walkway and bounded up the steps. "In here, Jenny," Casey called. "In the kitchen." 2 medics raced through the door, one with a medical bag. Casey stood up so the EMTs could see her through the open pass-through. Jenny and the second young woman knelt by Hal, checked his pulse, his breathing, his blood pressure. The EMTs looked as grim as Victoria felt. Hal's convulsive movements were getting weaker and weaker. The medics and Casey eased Hal onto a wheeled stretcher and pushed it through the parish hall door to the waiting ambulance. Jenny hoisted herself into the driver's seat, and the ambulance took off, siren wailing. Victoria, who had followed Casey out, climbed into the passenger seat of the Bronco, and they shot off to the main road behind the blue and white emergency vehicle. They sped past the school, past Whippoorwill Farm, past tall snags of dead red pine. The early afternoon sun glistened on the changing golden-brown oak and beech leaves on either side of the road. By the time the ambulance had gone down the hill into Vineyard Haven, had passed the harbour and the shipyard and the tall fuel tanks, had crossed the bridge that separated Lagoon Pond from the harbour, and turned into the hospital's emergency entrance, it was too late. Hal had died on the way. Doc Erickson was on duty in the emergency room. He checked for vital signs and pulled off his stethoscope. "I'd been treating him for heart problems," he said. "I was afraid of this." He listened while Casey told him Hal's symptoms. "Not typical of a heart attack. I'll check, of course." He shrugged. On the way back to the parish hall, Victoria was quiet. "The church was his family," she said finally. "He and Carolyn had no children, and after she died, he had no other relatives." When they turned onto Old County Road, sunlight dazzled Victoria, and she pulled down the visor. "We played Scrabble together at the senior centre only last week." Casey listened. "He was 7 or 8 years younger than me," Victoria continued, "and apparently in nowhere near as good health as we all thought." "He was with some oil company at one time, wasn't he?" "A vice president. He retired here about 20 years ago." Victoria sighed. "I suppose I'd better clean up the mess." "I'll help," said Casey. Together they swept the broken china and glass into a heap, finished putting the dishes in the cabinets, the tablecloths in a plastic bag to be laundered. Victoria set Hal's shoes to one side. As they worked, Casey talked into Victoria's silence. "It was this church as much as anything that convinced me to accept the police job. Patrick is almost 9 now, and I wanted him to have this sense of community. You okay, Victoria?" Victoria nodded. She turned her deep-set eyes to Casey, listening. "The day I came for my job interview, almost a year ago, I looked in the church windows. I never dreamed the door would be open, and that I could simply walk in. In Brockton, the door would have been locked."